Hello readers, I'm Amy and I'm doing that thing again where I put off doing my wrap-ups and I put it off and I put it off and then I end up with a ton of stuff to talk about. And the point of this whole half-wrapped thing was to not do that. So I'm just gonna go through. I know I have to have talked about some of these. I tried to check my last video that I did for half-wrapped or my last couple of videos and I'm like, I can't possibly have talked that long ago. So, did I even write that lot? I don't even know if I wrote down the graveyard apartment. Nope, there it is, and the vanishing half. This is gonna take a minute. I'm using the journal that Hillary got me, and I just, I need to do my wrap-ups more often because this is stressing me out. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that this full 2 pages is what I need to talk about because I checked back on my other video, my other half-wrapped videos, just to make sure that I hadn't talked about these books, and it looks like I haven't. So much for the idea of shortening wrap-ups. Does anyone else hate doing wrap-ups? Like, I guess I haven't really done a lot of individual video reviews lately, and that was one of the reasons that I wasn't really doing wrap-ups. I guess in that case some of these I don't need to talk about, but anyways, enough of my rambling. Let's just get started on this. If you have not watched my half-wrapped reviews yet, I got tired of doing full month wrap-ups because I'll read like 17 books in a month and I don't want to talk about 17 books, and if I do other videos around some of those books that I've read, it just feels like repetitive content. So I'm not going to be talking about the one book that I finished for the week of reading Indian authors because I already addressed that. I don't know that I've talked about any of these other ones, so let's go ahead and get started. So I'll go ahead and start with The Killing Moon. This is the first book in the Dreamblood duology. I decided to read this after watching one of Angela's videos on, I don't know if she was walking through all of the N.K. Jemisin books or it was like a why you should read the Dreamblood duology. So I did go ahead and read book 1. I will not be continuing the duology. Again, I liked Jemisin's writing. I typically do. But something about this was not working for me, and I think it was the magic system. It's very based in dreams, as you might be able to tell from the title Dreamblood. Dreams are one of those tropes that doesn't work for me. I don't care if it's a movie, I don't care if it's a TV show or a book. If there is a dream sequence, it doesn't do anything to advance the plot for me. It doesn't add to the story for me. And this was kind of a similar case, not so much in that the dreams didn't advance the story, which I don't really feel like they did. Not that we got a lot of details on the dreams, but the dream magic was just so abstract that it didn't really work for me. So that book, I'm like, it was fine. Not my favorite N.K. Jemisin. Then we have The Deep by Rivers Solomon. I can't believe I haven't talked about this yet because I feel like I have. Maybe I have. I don't know. So The Deep by Rivers Solomon. This is I feel like it's been advertised as a novella. I would just say it's a full novel. I haven't read An Unkindness of Ghosts yet, which I might after reading this. But The Deep is about a bunch of mermaids in the ocean who came from pregnant black women who were thrown off of slave ships. And it's got a couple of different, not perspectives, but like a couple of different timelines that it seems to be following. We have our autistic main character who holds all of the memories for all of the mermaids and once a year shares those memories. And it's really hard for them to carry around those memories. It's a lot of stress on them. And then we're kind of going back in history to where these mermaids are trying to figure out where they come from, how they came to be in the world. So it was really interesting to see those 2 different aspects of the story. Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. I feel like I'm the only person in the world who hasn't read this yet, and it was phenomenal. It's a novel in verse. It would be similar to like Poet X. And you have this young black boy who is trying to like find where he fits in the world, and he really appreciates some of the girly things. He really wanted a Barbie as a kid, and just no one would ever give him a Barbie, and he just wanted a Barbie. He specifically wanted this super glamorous Barbie. But you see him in college where he's like, this club isn't interesting, this club isn't interesting. And then he finds this drag club. He's like, I don't know what my drag identity is. Like, I don't know what... But he joins this club, and it's like he starts to come into himself. He realizes himself. He finds his place. And there's so much discussion of race and gender and identity. And it was just beautiful. If you are at all interested in novel and verse, just read this. It will blow you away. 5 stars, obviously. The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen? Nguyen? Never good with the NG sounds. This was recommended by Hillary on one of her videos, and it was like the best book she'd read all month, maybe one of the best books she'd read in the year. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read that, because I've been attracted to graphic novels recently. Like I've been really loving that short, artsy content. It doesn't take a ton of time to read, but you can still get quite a bit out of it, and I agree. It's one of the best books that I've read this year. This is following a Vietnamese boy. I believe he was born in America, if I remember correctly, and his mom was born in Vietnam, and it does a great job of using color to tell the story. So you have, what is it? You have a blue color story to use for the fairy tales that he and his mom tell each other, because they read stories to each other in order to practice English or practice Vietnamese. And the mom's background story is in reds, and then I can't remember what the main story was in. I think it was in like either yellows, or it was just kind of a full color theme. But this boy reads these stories with his mom, and he's trying to figure out how to tell her that he's gay. And a lot of the stories, some of the fairy tales were familiar, but had like different endings, because they're really playing with gender, and well, maybe not gender so much, but they're really playing with kind of sexuality in some of these stories. And there was one bit at the end that really got me angry. So, trigger warning, slight spoiler, if you are at all upset or struggle with storylines that include a mention of conversion, just tread lightly. But it's like one box out of this whole graphic novel that mentions it, so it's not like a main part of the story, and it's just him overcoming that and trying to communicate with his mother about the people that he's attracted to. And it was gorgeous. Would definitely recommend. I cannot recommend that book enough. If They Come For Us by Fatima Asghar. This was on Hillary's Instagram. It was on Shannon's Instagram, because Shannon was running a International Women's Day like readathon, and she had a couple of prompts for some shorter reads, and she was reading If They Come For Us, and Hillary's like, oh, I'll also read that. And I'm like, this looks interesting. So I get on my library card, and it's immediately available, so I read it that day. This is a poetry collection. If you know me at all, you know I'm not really a poetry person, but I loved this. This is kind of where I fit in, I want to say it was Pakistan. It was either Pakistan or Israel, but I feel like it was Pakistan. I will put my correction up here. I don't take a lot of notes for my videos, I apologize. And they're talking about some of the history of the country and how they feel they fit into it, and how their culture kind of identifies them and how it differentiates them from their peers in America, goes into gender, race, sexuality. Again, just beautiful, a diverse amount of topics. And I like seeing these perspectives of people who are talking about other countries. It's something that I'm trying to include in my own reading more often. The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. I thought this was a newer release because I'm hearing about it a lot lately. Sorry, I move my hands a lot, and today's just a moving pen day. Secret Lives of Church Ladies. This is exactly what it sounds like. It's the Secret Lives of Church Ladies. There's not a ton of religion that's really discussed in the books, so if you're averse to reading about religion, I wouldn't like not recommend this. But I would still recommend reading this if you're interested in topics of sexuality and Black women's lives, because this is by a Black author. It's Black women's stories. And while it's the secret lives of church ladies, there's not a lot of church discussion in it. Religion isn't the main thing. It's like these women go to church, but they're also lesbian. These women go to church, but they also have affairs. These women go to church, but they also have sex outside of marriage. It's like these women have perfectly normal lives, and they also happen to practice a religion. So I loved that, because I don't see a ton of writing or media in general with gender and sexuality and religion, because it's just like religion doesn't go there. So loved that. Would recommend. It's a collection of short stories. I've been reading more short story collections in the last couple of years, and I'm really finding the stuff that I like. So if you are at all curious about trying to find some short stories that you enjoy, please pick up Secret Lives of Church Ladies. It was amazing. The writing's great. Then we have The Ex Talk. This was another book that Hillary read, I think, a couple of months ago, and she made it sound really intriguing. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pick up another romance book, and I loved it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. I'm finding if you are like me and you say you don't like romance, you don't really enjoy it, it's not something you reach for, I would give this one a try. I think the way I describe romance that I like is I like romance books that aren't solely focused on the romance. So The Ex Talk has some steamy sex scenes, it has romance, but it also talks a lot about office culture, about sexuality and like relationships with coworkers and mental health. It's about more than the romance, and it just feels like a more well-rounded story. So if you've been reading the Brown Sisters trilogy and you love that, check out The Ex Talk, honestly. I think you would like it. And last book that I finished last night was If I Had Your Face. This was the book of the month for the, is it Ardent Readers Collective book club that I joined last month. And I didn't get to participate in their book club discussion because I hadn't finished the book at the time, but I did finish it last night. I'm giving it kind of a hesitant 3 stars. This author, she's lived in America and Korea and China. It's an Asian-focused story taking place in Seoul, Korea, and it was a little hard to follow the characters with how long the chapters are. We get, I think, 3 chapters for each of the characters, so it was kind of hard to keep track of everyone and what their stories were. And I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I feel like the story had a point, but the plot didn't. Very slow moving. And with the stories, we're seeing these women who are heavily like alternating their appearance through plastic surgery, which is something I'm really conflicted about on a couple different levels, but that's not what this video is about. It's talking a lot about altering yourself through plastic surgery and trying to meet the standards of others and make your way through the world as a woman, and it's very, very feminist in that sense. But as for the actual plot line, I don't know what the point was. There's not really this spot where everything comes to a head. There's not really this big resolution of everything. So I'd be interested to see what more the author comes out with. I liked her politics through this book, but I'm like, I need an actual plot line. I need the going, I need the rise, I need the fall, and I didn't get that from this. So those are the books that I read in March and I think a little bit of February for the most part. Yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know what you've liked, what you've disliked. Let me know your thoughts on romance, because that is getting more and more interesting to me lately. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media. I will see all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.